So let's move on to topic 3, which is design and delivery of your Train the Trainer session. So let's say you got your topic, you know people want it, you've put your strategy together, you've built it, and you're going to deliver it. There's a couple things that I want to make sure that you understand. Is a Train the Trainer session is a little unique in its design. It's not like a workshop. Trainers are going to expect that you give them all of these tools so that they can be successful. So they're going to need a participant workbook. They're going to need any of the slides that you use, right? They're going to need a facilitator guide, and I'm going to show you an example of that in a minute. They're going to need access to any supplemental materials that you use, maybe posters, props, anything that you do in your training session when you do it, they need to have in a nice little package buttoned up and handed to them. Now, one way to do that is just to put everything on a zip drive, and they can go get things printed, makes it really clean, very easy to do. I would recommend that. But let me talk to you a little bit about a facilitator guide. So this is the main difference between a training workshop and a Train the Trainer program. And this is an example of a facilitator guide that we put together for a client last year. So it's corporate, it doesn't have all the, it doesn't look beautiful, but it gets the job done, I would say. But this was on, they were going through a ton of organizational change, and they did not have good communication tools. They weren't coaching people effectively, and they asked us to come in and build this program that their trainers could go out and deploy. And so a facilitator guide, these are the first 2 pages, but a facilitator guide absolutely has to walk the trainer step by step through everything. How long is the course? What does it look like on day 1? What does it look like on day 2? What is the pre-work that people need to be doing before they come to the session? What are all the materials that you need to have prepared before you train on this topic? What are the flip charts that you need to have prepared so that when you start your workshop, you are ready to go? What are the handouts and job aids that you need? So that is something that you would put in a facilitator guide. The other thing that you would put in a facilitator guide is helping the learner, the trainer, understand how to read this guide. So this is how to use this guide, right? This is how we, in this particular situation, I don't always do it this way, but this is how we designed it. So you'll notice that every page has the topic, how much time do you spend on this, what are the corresponding participant workbook pages, what are the corresponding PowerPoint pages. Connect the dots is almost like, here's information for the facilitator about where people might be in this process and how to make sure you're connecting all the dots of where they might be. Some main talking points for facilitating this topic, instructions for how to run an activity, instructions for how to debrief an activity, and instructions on how to transition to the next activity. I mean, I am giving them everything they possibly need. This is one example of what it looks like. So the way that we set this up per request of the client was they wanted PowerPoint and workbook, participant workbook pages on the left, instructions for the facilitator on the right. So in their facilitator guide, the facilitator could always look down and go, oh, I should be on one of these 4 slides, and the participants should be on one of these 2 pages, right? So that makes it really easy for them when they're facilitating to know that. And then, of course, my information is over here, stuff that they need to do. So that is generally what a facilitator guide looks like, and pretty much includes everything. I've seen facilitator guides that actually will put in there, say this. Seriously, right? Say this, exactly. So whatever, they can look different. This is one example that I've built over the years. Okay. Couple other key points about the Train the Trainer program. I make it unbelievably interactive because the way that I deliver it, my Train the Trainer program, is I'm putting the trainers not only through the program, so they have the participant workbook and they're going through the program, at the same time, I will stop at certain places, and then I'll say, all right, let's stop now and put on our facilitator hat, and let's go to the facilitator guide, and let's talk about what I just did and how I just facilitated that. Let's talk about what's going to be difficult for you when you facilitate that. Let me share with you some of the common comments I get when I facilitate this that might throw you for a loop. And then I might have them do an activity to practice what I just taught them as a facilitator, and then I will give them feedback. So it is very, very interactive. And I'm a huge proponent, and what's worked best for me is that we stop throughout the program, throughout the workshop. I'm putting them through the workshop, but we're stopping and putting on their facilitator hat and then talking facilitation or training. And then we go back to the next section in the workbook, and I put it through them as they're a participant, and then we stop. And then they ask questions, and we go. If I tried to go through everything, they're not going to remember it, right? They're not going to figure out, how do I apply this, and what happens when this comes up? So there's a ton of interactivity. There's a ton of activity practice. And the last piece is I get them extremely familiar with the materials that I just handed to them. And one way I love to do this is that I will give them like a question and say, hey, okay, at the end of this workshop, your learners have these 5 questions. Tell me where you find that in the facilitator guide, right? So I have them do teach backs. I have them go back and talk through the information. There's a lot of ways that you make sure they are 100% comfortable with the materials you've provided them, okay? So that's what my Train the Trainer program looks like. Whatever your workshop timing is, so let's say when you deliver this, it's 4 hours, double that for the Train the Trainer. All right, you're definitely going to spend at least a day with them, training them on a 2 to 4 hour program, maybe longer. So double, or even, I don't know about triple, but you know, you're going to spend a day to a day and a half going through the materials in this way, which I have found is how adults learn best. So Train the Trainer does allow for a lot of upsell opportunities, in my opinion, okay? Back to that example that I shared, the one I'm building right now, you know, one of the things that I built in as an optional upsell was to come in and observe the subject matter experts actually doing the training and offer them one-on-one coaching. Yeah, good idea, right? So make the, you know, that you can either build it right in, or I made it optional, but in terms of, you know, having people deliver that aren't normally trainers, I think that's a really smart idea to allow me to make sure they're investing all this money. Why not pay me to come out and coach with the subject matter experts the first time? The other key thing that you might build in is support packages. So you might build in support to the trainers before the training. They get really nervous. I've done this a lot. They need to talk to you and deal with all of their concerns and fears, and you're coaching them along the way. And then you might even build in support after they deliver it. Now, if you're delivering this to a lot of different people, to a lot of trainers, you can even schedule a 30-day follow-up call after they've delivered it the first time to gather their feedback. This is a great way to get your measurement that I talked about in my strategy, to see what needs to be updated, what needs to be adjusted. Another opportunity to upsell is next year when you upgrade your topic and you have some new research or information to make it kind of a 2.0 or a 3.0, you now have an active audience to go back and sell that to, right? So there are a lot of potential opportunities to upsell. You may be able to take this topic, and if you do a bang-up job, they go, what else do you got, right? Like, this was amazing. Can we buy more like this from you? So lots and lots of opportunities to upsell when you do a great job setting up people for success.